Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your daily source for Black news, views, and of course opinions. Happy Hump Day. Today is October 5th, and I'm Mimi Brown.
And I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And we begin today's report with updates on WNBA star Brittney Griner, who is still detained in a Russian prison. Her legal team filed an appeal, but will a judge in Russia approve? Mimi will have more. Meanwhile, Georgia Senate hopeful Herschel Walker at the center of abortion controversy. Will the drama affect his chances? Soulmates, you know we're going to have that story. Then, Ahmaud Arbery's mother slamming a hip-hop rapper, claiming he's exhibiting extremist behavior. We'll tell you what that rapper did to make her feel that way.
Plus, Los Angeles radio royalty stops by today. We're talking about Pat Prescott. We're going to talk about her long, amazing career, plus how she held it down here in Los Angeles at 94.7 The Wave. And the hip-hop community came together to celebrate music last night for the BET Hip Hop Awards, and we have a rundown of some of the top moments from that show. We have all of that and so much more. This is our voice and our truth, so let's get it.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us today. We start with news on Brittney Griner. A Russian court has set a date for her appeal. It will happen on Monday, October 25th. Griner was sentenced to 9 years in prison for having cannabis oil in her luggage back in February. Now, she maintains she accidentally packed it and has a prescription for cannabis to treat pain. The U.S. has declared Griner wrongfully detained and have proposed a prisoner swap to secure the release of her and another American being held in Russia. So this is very interesting. The White House, the press secretary, they held a briefing on Brittney Griner, and just to update the public on what's going on. They said that there has been no progress with Russian officials. They said that Russia actually has yet to respond to their serious proposal of a prisoner swap. So they are calling the hearing that is coming up on October 25th another sham judicial proceeding. So, you know, it just remains to be seen what will happen during that time. You know, right now she's facing 9 years, and the way it's looking, just kind of what we know from behind the scenes, I can't imagine what she must be feeling knowing that the prisoner swap, those talkings, those proceedings with the Kremlin isn't going anywhere.
You know, I remember when this news was first made in public, and at first it was, you know, we're not going to speak much on it. And Brittney Griner's wife, Sherelle, she wasn't speaking much, but she didn't seem very nervous at first. And then now we're 2 months after she's been sentenced to 9 years, like you said, Mimi, and now her wife is speaking out saying that this terrifies her. She's saying now that she never thought in a million years would she be at a place where the nation's presidents can't come together and government officials can't come together and decide what they would like to do with her wife. She's feeling very terrified right now. And so I feel like when the family is terrified, then we kind of need to be terrified as well, because if she's the first person in command that would get any details as to what's going on and she's left out of the blue, it makes me, just as an average bystander watching in support of Brittney Griner, even more terrified to know what could possibly be going on. And I couldn't imagine sitting at home being one of Brittney Griner's family members, just being so clueless as to what's going on, and let alone Brittney, where her mental state right now.
No, I think about it because here we are, we're talking about she got 9 years. The max was 10. She apologized. There was a prescription to wear something like that, to have that, right? But in the end, she goes to Russia and she helps that place make money. Like, she plays basketball. She gets paid a lot of money, but the fact that she travels back and forth with that country, and here's what I'm concerned about. The WNBA season has come and gone, so right, how do we keep this a front page story is what we have to do. I'm hoping the NBA, the league, continues to speak on her name and just say it loud throughout the season until we can get her back home, because 9 years for this is totally uncalled for, especially for someone that actually gives back to your country every year.
This screams politically motivated, right?
Yeah.
It screams that this is deeper than all of us know on the surface. This screams that there's something going on. You know, there's a war going on with Russia and Ukraine and the United States supplying Ukraine with weapons and things like that. So there's so many implications to why this is happening. I think it's bigger than Brittney. I think she's caught up in the middle, and it's very, very unfortunate, and it's very, very sad.
You know, and back to just basketball for a second, Romeo, you guys know I always love to, you know, talk about, get the basketball and the money aspect of it too. I think this is going to change how the WNBA pays their players as well, because so hopefully I think that there are going to be a lot of players in their teams and the people that work for them, they're going to be fighting for more money, because it's going to be like, hey, like, if we can't go play overseas, you need to pay us more money to play inside the States.
Agree.
Mm-hmm. With less than a month before the midterm elections, the contest is heating up. Democrats and Republicans are fighting for control of the House. Speaker Nancy Pelosi is predicting the Democrats will keep control. That is despite polls showing the nation is pretty much split in half on which political party it wants in the majority. Right now, the Democrats hold a single-digit majority. They claim that a push of votes from women will result in their party's control of the House and Senate this fall. Pelosi also is predicting those Democratic votees and victories, in November would mirror those of 2020. Early voting in some states is already underway.
And a trial stemming from the January 6th riot on the U.S. Capitol is now underway. Prosecutors say the Oath Keepers formed an armed rebellion to keep former President Trump in power. Founder Stewart Rhodes and the other men are all charged with seditious conspiracy. That's the most serious charge of anyone tied to the assault. Defense attorneys claim prosecutors cherry-picked comments from messages and videos and claim there is no evidence that the Oath Keepers planned any of it.
And a federal appeals court today agreed to fast-track an appeal by the Department of Justice over the appointment of a special master to review thousands of pages of government records. Those records were seized from this summer from former President Donald Trump's Florida home. The one-page order by the U.S. Appeals Court sets an aggressive timeline for the case, ordering that multiple rounds of paper briefs by the DOJ and Trump must wrap up by November 17th.
And the U.S. Supreme Court justices have began a new term and have added 9 cases to its docket. 2 of those cases involve the future of Internet speech. In Gonzalez versus Google, the justices will consider the scope of a federal law that social media companies say protects them from lawsuits. Depending on the outcome, it could open up new risks for tech platforms, including Google, Meta, as well as Twitter. The Supreme Court will also consider whether social media companies can be sued for aiding and abetting in an act of terrorism.
The NAACP is calling for the resignation of Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. They want him to resign or face impeachment. Cameron was the DA who led the state investigation into Breonna Taylor's death. The civil rights organization says he failed to conduct a fair and impartial investigation into the fatal police shooting. Breonna's death sparked an outrage across the country. The NAACP says Cameron sided with the police officers instead of impartially weighing the evidence. Cameron, a black Republican, says he is running for governor in 2023.
And the criminal trial of Tu Tal and J. Alexander King is set to begin later this month. The two turned themselves into the U.S. Marshal Services earlier this week. King was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison for violating Floyd's civil rights. Tal was given 3.5 years. Authorities have not yet said where they will serve their sentences, and both men still face a state trial on charges of aiding and abetting murder and manslaughter. Now, if they are convicted, any prison time that they are given would likely be served concurrent with the sentences already handed down in their federal cases.
And there's a new controversy surrounding Georgia's Senate candidate Herschel Walker. So a report from the Daily Beast alleges that Walker paid for an abortion for his then-girlfriend back in 2009. The former NFL player has denied the story, but the ex-girlfriend provided a receipt from the abortion clinic and a $700 check sent by Walker to her in a get-well card that was sent days later. And Walker's son, Christian Walker, is also speaking out, accusing his father of lying.
I stayed silent when it came out that my father, Herschel Walker, had all these random kids across the country, none of whom he raised. And you know my favorite issue to talk about is father absence. Surprise, because it affected me. That's why I talk about it all the time, because it affected me. Family values, people. He has 4 kids, 4 different women, wasn't in the house raising one of them. He was out having sex with other women. Do you care about family values? I was silent, lie after lie after lie. The abortion card drops yesterday. It's literally his handwriting in the card. They say they have receipts, whatever. He gets on Twitter. He lies about it. Okay, I'm done. Done. Everything has been a lie.
And we agree. Christian has also accused his father of threatening to kill him and his mother. Herschel Walker responded with a tweet saying, "I love my son no matter what." Early voting in Georgia begins on October 17th. This is the version of when the hits the fan. Wow. And so, his son has spoken out before, but I believe that his persona is so over the top that people kind of just didn't believe him. He's been loud and vivacious before when he's made claims about his father and other things like that. And even myself, I was like, you know what? Herschel Walker says some crazy things. His son, they're probably just all in this together. But this, however, I was so incredibly shocked to see him speak up against his father. And the abortion, I really feel like the abortion was the nail in the coffin, to be honest. Like, to be pro-life, to be talking about you shouldn't have an abortion and pro-life, and to be a man talking about what a woman should do with her body, and to know that you back in the day as well made an exception to the rule when it befitted you, and you were the one that allegedly was able to get an abortion for your then girlfriend. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. And so I asked in the open, does this affect his chances? It absolutely should. It absolutely 100%, 1,000% should.
It should, but will it? I mean, this is the Trump effect, right? We live in the Trump days now. And no matter what we saw, when it was Trump, this is the last straw in the coffin. This is the last nail in the coffin. It's over for Trump, right? And then he keeps coming back. And so we're talking about that same base. We're talking about those same sort of supporters. I mean, the son was so passionate. You can't help but believe them. Whatever the problem is, there's some hurt here, right? Like, there's something here that he felt that he needed to go and make this video. So, listen, Herschel, we all know that he's not the best candidate for the job. I mean, if you have 2 eyes and 2 ears, you can hear and see that he is not equipped to be a U.S. senator, right? So let's just, family business aside, we know that that a lot of our representatives who are in the Senate, who are in the Senate and in the House, they are hypocritical. We did the story a couple months ago about the senator who was against gay rights, but then went to his son's wedding where he, married his husband. So, we see this all the time. So this, him paying for abortion, him being pro-life on paper, but not in real life, does not surprise me.
My favorite motto is always, don't lighten up, tighten up. And I'm going to tell you this. Here's the reason why. Because we see all this and we're like, oh, this is easy, man. I don't even have to go vote right here in Georgia, because who's going to vote for this guy? Well, it happened in 2020, happened in 2016, I'm sorry, and it can happen again. So you have to make sure you still go out there and vote. But I feel like his son coming out, that's frustration that was built up in him for a very long time. And he had no problem speaking his mind, speaking his truth. I think he'd be like, look, I'll do a lie detector test right now. I think his son would do that and say, put me up on a lie detector, put my dad next to me, see who's really lying. Like, he's at that point.
Because you know what happens when one person goes down, the entire family goes down. And so this young boy has also lost opportunities as well. You're thinking about people don't want to be affiliated with him just based off of who his father is. So he's also like, hey, I probably want to get my life back. He's probably saying what I'm thinking is, I want to get my life back and show that I'm not associated with his views, with anything. I've stood beside you as your son, but now I'm just, letting the truth be told. So, and I'm happy that he did that.
All right. Well, a North Carolina sheriff is under investigation for a racist rant caught on a recording. Take a look.
Tomorrow's gonna be a new day. I'm still the sheriff, and when I'll go there and found my goddamn get black bastards. They think I'm scared. That's stupid. We'll get the snake's head off. And Melvin Campbell's the biggest snake his little stature ever dared to be. Every black that I know, you need to find him to start with. He's a snake.
Every black that I saw, I'm still the mother. Okay. That was Sheriff Jody Green. Green says the recordings released to the media are politically motivated. Well, you said it. The North Carolina NAACP demands his resignation. Now, fellow sheriffs across the state are also denouncing Green's comments. You don't have a choice. I mean, if you want to go by law and you want to do the right thing, you have to fall back and be like, I got to wash my hands with any kind of relationship we've had together, because what you said, what we heard right there, cannot be tolerated in this country. Enough is enough. We're going through enough. And now you're supposed to protect and serve. How are you going to protect people of color if that's how you really, really feel?
Absolutely. Romeo, we've seen this time and time again, where we have just mere disrespect for those of our community. And again, it makes sense when we see so many stories about black people who get pulled over running and trying to flee the scene just to potentially leave a situation alive, and it just makes me just terrified to even get pulled over by a cop, because you literally never know what kind of person you're going to encounter and what the outcome of it is going to be.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys said it all. this is, you know, I believe he's on some sort of paid administrative leave. He should definitely not be on paid administrative leave. I mean, we can hear it and for our own, in our own ears and everything. And so it's just, it baffles the mind how we can continue to put someone on paid administrative leave when we know how they feel. I mean, he said the blacks. I mean, who talks like that?
Yes.
You know, in 2022 and black bastard. I mean, there's just so many things wrong with what we heard just now.
Definitely so many things, and I'm just disgusted by it all, and just how can we continue to let this happen?
Yeah. Okay. And Ahmaud Arbery's mother is speaking out against Kanye West for wearing White Lives Matter T-shirt. In a statement to Rolling Stone, Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper James, expresses her extreme disappointment for Kanye's White Lives Matter stunt. She says it legitimizes extremist behavior. Now, Kanye was joined by conservative pundit Candace Owens, who also wore a White Lives Matter T-shirt. Before the surprise show in Paris, Ye delivered a speech touching on various topics, but did not address the controversial T-shirt. A day later, he called Black Lives Matter, quote, a scam.
Here's an update, Soulmates, to a story we told you about yesterday, where students at a Northern California high school were filmed acting out a slave auction of their black classmates. Take a look, Soulmates. This is the video. The superintendent of the district says that he received a video showing team members at River Valley High School pretending to auction 3 of their black teammates in the locker room. Now, the district says that the players involved in the incident will not be allowed to play for the rest of the season. I have so many questions seeing the video live here. One, Mimi, I'm really happy that we were able to add that little tidbit in here that they will not be able to play for the rest of the season, which is exactly what I said, losing out on opportunities for something silly. I'm just wondering, were the black students were the ones that were being auctioned off? What was going on here? How did this go? How did this begin? Because that is what I need to know, the origins of this. Were the black students coerced into doing this? Why would the black students want to be a part of this? I just have so many questions as to who was even okay with this? Who, the person filming it? Did no one ever say, hey, you guys, we should not be doing this. This is not okay.
Well, I went home yesterday and had a conversation with my son after this. And yes, he's only 9, but I felt like it was a need because there are certain times, like we said, when there's teaching moments, we said that yesterday in this story. So I went home to do a teaching. And my first question to him was, you know, are you a leader or a follower? And I think, you know, as a parent, you have to teach your kid to be like, look, you don't have to do certain things just because you want to fit in or you want to be friends. Like, you know, your knowledge of the books, your athleticism, all that will put you at the top of the list. You just have to go ahead and make sure you exercise those rights and do that. But when I see this, and just their posture, how they're standing there, it looked so eerie to me. Like they were literally acting this out. You know, if we show as we show in the video now, when you see the 3 black boys standing there, it's kind of very sad to see them doing it. See how they drop their head as they're walking when the camera hit them? Like they're really playing this role. This is not right. What are we doing? All right, and I'm go back to the parents. Yes, kids shouldn't have been doing that in the school. Both sides are wrong at the end of the day. And I feel like parents have to do better at parenting if you think your kid thinks that is okay.
Yeah, I mean, just no words for that. You know, I think if they didn't know before, now they know now that this is unacceptable. This is not something that you recreate. This is not something that you reenact. And this, I'm assuming, is a teachable lesson for them, too. Too bad they didn't know this going into something like this, because just talking about it yesterday and seeing the video today, it puts a whole new spin on it. It makes it just, you know, it changes everything, actually seeing it versus just talking about it. And it really breaks my heart to see that these young black boys would subject themselves to something like this after so many people have died and given their lives and done everything so that they would not have to be subjected to something like this.
Which is why we need to teach this in classrooms about slavery, about what happened years ago, so this doesn't happen today.